You know what? I can't do it. No intro this week because nothing is going to do this chapter justice. What was supposed to be a nice, easy, slow-paced trip across the sea to reach the next arc just went completely insane. And the best way to explain it is with a full recap, so let's get right to it. We open One Piece chapter 1060 on the Sunny, breezily making its way down the Grand Line. There are some nearby Sea Kings eyeing it hungrily, but that's nothing new. We're picking things up directly from where we left them last week, with the crew still reacting to the newly arrived newspaper. They've gotten past their bounty notices and are looking at the actual news part. And like most people reacting to the news, Luffy is yelling at the top of his voice in disbelief. The group are reading the story of Sabo killing King Cobra during the reverie. Luffy can't believe that his brother would do anything like that. Even the idea alone is enough to get him to fall over, too mad to cope with talking about it. Robin is calm, but ultimately agrees with Luffy. She spent the time skip with the Revolutionary Army, even learning fisherman karate from Sabo's aide Koala. She spent 2 years with this man. Robin knows how out of character this is. We go over the main points of Morgan's article. It's what we already knew. The Revolutionary Army declared war on the Celestial Dragons. Cobra was killed by Sabo, and the fact that Vivi is now suddenly missing. With her father dead, it's hard for even the Straw Hats to stay calm. What if she's dead too? Luffy flat out orders his crew to set course for Arabasta, barking at them to get to it right away. Zoro continues polishing his sword, unconcerned by his captain's anger. As cool as ever, the first mate points out the logic of their situation. As much as they may hate it, Cobra is dead. There's nothing the Straw Hats can do for a corpse. Plus, Vivi went missing in Marijoa during the reverie. There is no point in going to Arabasta to look for her. Luffy jumps to wanting to go straight to Marijoa instead, doubling down and getting angrier. He is not someone who can just sit by with his friends in trouble, or someone who cares about a tough fight. Any other character in this world, rational or not, is going to second guess when it comes to going to Marijoa, the holy land of the Celestial Dragons. But Luffy does not care. Remember, this is the man who punched a Celestial Dragon right in the face. So if there is one thing not to be underestimated when it comes to the danger Luffy poses, is the fact that he doesn't care. Anybody can get the smoke. Meanwhile, nestled in his barrel, Caribou is getting anxious. He's not too excited about the prospect of heading to the home of the world nobles. Just like any other rational character, the Marines are probably thorough enough to actually notice a random locked keg full of mud. What's worse is that he can't easily escape from the Sunny in the middle of the ocean. This whole trip may backfire hard for him. He starts to fidget in his barrel, trying to better hear what's going on. This backfires hard, with the incompetent spy knocking his barrel over in full view of the crew. Thankfully for Caribou, the loud argument is more than enough to distract the Straw Hats from his blunder. Zoro is having no part of the idea of heading to Marijoa, pointing out the obvious. That's the center of naval territory. Does Luffy really want to take on the Marines at the heart of their power? Luffy doesn't hesitate for a second before saying yes to that. And why would he? He took on Enies Lobby and CP9 for the sake of Robin. He tries to save Ace and Marineford. Luffy turns this around on Zoro, asking if he's just too afraid to take on a fight like that. The swordsman shoots that down, pointing out that they simply have no real leads on Vivi. There's no way to know what they could do to help her, even if they did sail to Marijoa. None of the Straw Hats are taking this well. Sanji, of course, is utterly inconsolable. He is crying his eyes out, hoping that Vivi is safe somehow. Chopper, meanwhile, is thinking about King Cobra. The doctor still remembers meeting Arabasta's king. And it seems that how nice he was to the Straw Hat crew stuck with Chopper. Even if they were pirates, they had saved Cobra's kingdom, and he treated them well for it. And now, that nice old man is dead. Chopper is crying just as much as Sanji is at that thought. Usopp, meanwhile, is fuming. He respected Cobra too, and the thought of someone wanting to kill the old king is enough to get him almost as mad as Luffy. Nami is pacing back and forth, trying to keep her emotions under control. We can see tears in her eyes, but also a bit of tension. At one point, she looks like she's about to scream in frustration. Hurting her friends is enough to get our navigator angry too. The Straw Hats who weren't a part of the crew back during Arabasta are far more composed. That said, they are still solemn. It's obvious how much this news has affected Luffy and his longer-serving crew members. Jinbei knows that the entire reverie this year has been tumultuous. Frankie wants to be sure that this Sabo is the same bro the crew ran into back in Dressrosa. Even with that brief interaction, he is finding this story hard to buy. Brook adds an interesting comment, stating that he doesn't know anyone who thinks Arabasta is ruled badly. An odd thing to say given the fact that Brook joined the Straw Hats after Arabasta. Maybe Brook has been there in the past or is well aware of their political affairs. That could either have been during the time skip or back when he was still alive. Or hell, maybe it's his original homeland. Either way, the crew members who know Vivi best remain inconsolable. Nami, Luffy, and Chopper are all entirely ready to do the extremely daring, if not stupid thing, and sail for Mary Joa. They are totally down for a Vivi retrieval arc. Unfortunately, Zoro is here to shut down that idea. Instead of arguing with these three directly, however, he brings up some of Luffy's own words. Ace has his own adventures. Luffy is not happy to have his old stance turned back on him, but Zoro doesn't care. He just sticks with the truth. Back then, Luffy trusted Ace to do his own thing and didn't jump in to save him until he really needed help. And you know, although I get where he's coming from here, I'm not sure this is the best case study here, because that didn't really work out now, did it, Zoro? It's not like going to save Ace, say, a few days earlier while he was still an impel down wouldn't have saved him or anything, right? Mosshead is trying to be reasonable though. He makes his line clear. They should have faith in Vivi. If they know there is something they can do, they can get involved then. In the meantime, these Straw Hats should trust in their friend and stop getting worked up about it. This is a strong leadership moment from Zoro and a very even-handed stance. He's trying to reassure his friends while pointing out that what they want isn't feasible. It's the sort of moment that shows why he is the first mate of these Straw Hats. Unfortunately, while Zoro did his best, it is not enough to stop his friends from worrying. In a callback to the first time they left Vivi behind, the old crew take turns insulting Zoro. And they get pretty creative with it. He's a demon, a green Kaido, a green mom. Although Sanji lets the insult game down by falling back on his usual Mosshead rather than anything new. This starts the usual Sanji versus Zoro argument fight, but does seem to have helped the crew calm down a bit. Things are back to normal. Robin goes back to the newspaper, reading over other stories. She notices how much the world has changed while they were in Wano. There have been many developments, and things are escalating fast. It's gotta feel disconcerting. Like they spent so long stuck behind the closed border, and everything is hitting at once. The end of the warlord system is the first part that draws Robin's attention. As she notes, it seems to have ultimately hurt the world government. As corrupt as the warlords were, without the system, these elite pirates are free to roam the seas. Removing their status has directly led to the formation of Cross Guild, and the rise of the dangerous new Yonko, Buggy the Clown. Luffy is not happy to hear Robin call him that, claiming that there has to be some kind of mistake. Is he really just concerned Buggy couldn't be important, or is he annoyed that the clown has a higher bounty than him? Either way, Robin continues to flip through the paper. She notes that there are some other familiar names in here. She asks Luffy if he wants to hear what they've been getting up to. Luffy considers it, but ultimately decides that no, he doesn't. He trusts Robin to tell him if anything important is going on. Robin agrees with that stance, adding that she doesn't want to overload her captain with information. And this panel here is very clearly Oda taunting us fans. Now, aside from the lesser news we may not know, if Luffy had said yes to Robin, it is very possible that he would have known that Blackbeard currently has Kobe in his clutches. And I'd say that the Kobe situation is rather different from the Vivi one. They know exactly where their friend is, or at least Luffy's friend is. So honestly, by not telling Luffy, we may have evaded a Yonko versus Yonko war. Crazy stuff. Anyway, Robin gets back to reading her spoiler newspaper while Luffy lays down on the deck. He goes back to something he is sure of. Sabo is innocent. Nami agrees, confident in her captain's judgment. Luffy tries to explain a bit more about Sabo to the crew. He knows Sabo didn't join the Revolutionary Army to kill people. He just wants people to be free, not to have to go through anything like his strict upbringing. We flash back briefly to Sabo swearing to one day travel the world and one day write a book about it. Luffy continues talking to the Straw Hats about that time he shared with his brothers. He goes over Sabo, Ace, and himself sharing a promise with one another. And for the first time, Luffy tells his crew exactly what he promised his brothers he'd do someday. This is the same mysterious dream that he shares with Goldie Roger, something that has driven Luffy all this time. And we finally get to see these Straw Hats react to it. Zoro, Jinbei, and Nami aren't sure they heard him right. Brook is laughing hard enough to cry, which is impressive for the man with no eyes. Usopp is oddly intense about it, not sure if Luffy is being serious. Frankie and Sanji both laugh hard, though Frankie is on board with this mysterious plan. Sanji asks Chopper to check Luffy's head, convinced his idea is beyond crazy. Robin, interestingly, is taken aback. She is surprised by Luffy's dream, but she does not doubt his ability to pull it off. And Chopper, sweet adorable Chopper, is ecstatic about this idea. He couldn't look more excited if he tried. Usopp tries to bring Luffy down, saying that this idea is something no one can do. Luffy, however, is convinced the King of the Pirates can accomplish this dream. He's more surprised that he never told his crew about this before. Usopp snarks that it wouldn't have made a difference if he did. This dream is still impossible. This doesn't seem to register for Luffy, however. He knows that this means he only told Ace, Sabo, and Shanks about his dream. Robin, while smiling, asks how they took it. She can probably guess. Luffy confirms that all three of them laughed. Shanks apparently had tears rolling down his face. That doesn't seem to have discouraged Luffy one bit, however. He leans back again, chuckling to himself. This is how he wants his dream to finally end, and he still believes he can pull it off. Jinbei provides a hearty, bellowing laugh. He has accepted Luffy's vision of the future and is seemingly on board with it. Luffy is his captain. He has promised to fight for his goals. That said, apparently, this dream is going to be tough to see through. Jinbei notes that he has chosen a troublesome captain. Luffy snickers at that, not bothering to deny it. Chopper is still starstruck, calling Luffy's dream amazing. Nami doesn't go that far, but she seems taken with the idea. Apparently, this dream is a very Luffy-like thing to think of. Frankie brings the crew back on task. If Luffy wants his dream to happen, he's going to need to be the Pirate King. If they want that to happen, they need the last road poneglyph. As soon as they have it, it is off to Laugh Tale. Robin is less hopeful, however. She points out that it has been a long time since the last poneglyph was seen. The Straw Hats have no idea where to even start looking for the final piece of this puzzle. And this is where we leave these Straw Hats for a moment. We go from the Sunny to Navy headquarters. The Marines are tapping the call Sabo made to the Kamabaka Queendom at the end of chapter 1058. The Surveillance Division are scrambling to intercept the transmission and pinpoint Sabo's position. He is not using a white Denden Mushi, so he is probably going to keep this short. They won't have long to work this out. Unfortunately, these Marines are very good at their jobs. In no time, they have Sabo's position worked out. He is in Lulusia Kingdom. Apparently, this was one of the 8 nations to rebel against the world government following the Reverie. And this makes sense. They were already held by the Revolutionary Army during Peachbeard's attack. After the commanders fought to protect the people, Lulusia would naturally have a good impression of the rebels. It makes sense they would jump on Sabo's big revolution and that they would be willing to hide him from the world government. We see IMU and the Gorosei listening to this news. The 5 are sitting in their normal room, while IMU is in the garden chamber tending to their butterflies. Interestingly, the 5 old men are very somber. You'd expect them to be really enjoying this moment. It's been a while since things went their way, and this is seemingly a big win. They found out where Sabo is hiding. They are in a position to strike back at the 8 Nation Revolution and bring things back under control. But the 5 seem almost upset. They're trying to keep calm, but you can tell something is affecting them. One calls Sabo an unlucky man, while another suggests this may just be fate. They know what's about to happen, and on some level, even the Gorosei are not okay with this. We go over to Kamabaka as Sabo's call continues. The Revolutionary Army are overjoyed to hear from their chief of staff. The commanders look like they're ready to throw a party just from hearing his voice. Sabo apologizes for causing them so much trouble before addressing Dragon. He makes it clear that he did not kill King Cobra. The rebels all cheer at that, happy to hear that their hero stood by his principles. Sabo doesn't have time to talk, however. It's pretty clear that he is on edge and trying to be quick. He has something urgent to share with the Revolutionary Army. While he was in Marijoa, he saw something unbelievable. While the call continues, the manga shows us a wide shot of the Lulusia Kingdom. It's looking pretty good for a state that just had a regime change. You could even call it idyllic. However, something is going on. The skies are getting dark even as Sabo keeps talking. One of the townspeople remarks that it is like something has entered the skies above them, blocking out the light from above the clouds. Most people are just going about their lives, however, and following a rebellion, that means dealing with the change in government. The Lulusian royal family have been locked up and are none too happy about it. Remember King Cobra, who took his subjects' discontent hard and desperately wanted to make peace with them, even when they started a civil war to try and bring him down? Well, King Seki and Princess Komane are not good, well-respected rulers. The king claims that as soon as Navy headquarters hears what has happened, the rebels will all be executed via impalement. Those fangs aren't just for show. He wants to go all in on the Dracula thing with some old-fashioned Vlad the Impaler retribution. Komane wants to carry out a few of those executions personally, as she is furious with the commoners for daring to rebel against them. The poor rebel soldier assigned to the royal pair tries to be reasonable. The Lulusians do not want to kill the 2 aristocrats. They just want their former king to admit to his crimes and be punished appropriately. Even a king shouldn't be above the law, right? Unfortunately, this plan is about to be cut short. We go back to Sabo's account of his time in Marijoa. He tells the rebels that he made it to the throne room in Pangaea Castle. and that he saw someone seated on the empty throne. He likely witnessed IMU's meeting with the 5 elders, the same scene we saw during the Reverie arc. Sabo probably doesn't know any more about IMU than we do, but even that little is not something the world government can overlook. Rebellion is one thing, but the existence of IMU is a vital secret. They're treating this with the very same gravity as they do when it comes to the concealment of the Void Sentry. And just like that, an unseen hand crosses Lulusia off of the map with a flick of a calligraphy brush. As soon as it does so, the shadow above the island grows bigger. Whatever was hovering above the kingdom has descended to the point right above the clouds. The people of Lulusia look up, uncomprehending. A young girl cries in her mother's arms. A dog barks. Sabo looks up, finally realizing something is going on. We see IMU's eyes looking out of the shadow as a bright light flares above the kingdom of Lulusia, coming from whatever is hidden in the clouds. A dispassionate world government transmission goes out. As far as the surveillance division is concerned, no one detected anything abnormal today. No information was intercepted. As for the kingdom of Lulusia, that kingdom never existed. With those final words, the shadow hidden in the clouds fires some kind of destructive weapon. An almighty barrage of lasers falls upon Lulusia, their energy coming together in an all-consuming ball of light. The scale of this assault is beyond anything we have seen so far in the world of One Piece. This makes a Buster Call look almost quaint in comparison. That's just enough conventional cannon fire to kill everyone on an island. You can survive a Buster Call if you're lucky, or have friends willing to get you out of it. But from what we can tell, there is just no way to survive an attack like this. We see stone towers splinter and fade to rubble and ash. This blast has quite literally reduced the island to nothing. If a ship shows up, they'll be hard pressed to find any trace of Lulusia. In fact, they probably won't even be able to get close. A blast like this is going to disrupt the local seas for a while. The world government broadcasts a tsunami warning, even as the Revolutionary Army tries desperately to get a hold of Sabo. The Dendenmushi signal has gone dead. It will probably take Dragon and his team some time to work out what just happened. Sabo only just made contact with the army, and he has been taken away from them, along with an entire island full of innocent people. IMU does not play around. They do not sit on the empty throne for show. They are ruler of the world, and they just showed enough force to back up that title. Dragon's fight to top of the world government is looking a whole lot harder after this chapter. From this, we go back to the Thousand Sunny in the middle of an intense storm. This is a few weeks after the destruction of Lulusia. It's hard to tell if IMU blowing up the island has led to ongoing climate craziness in nearby waters, or if this is just some normal Grand Line weather. Either way, the Sunny isn't doing great. Atop the intense wind and lashing water, it's snowing and the crew are freezing. After a mostly pleasant climate on Wano, it has to be a rude awakening to go back to crazy Grand Line Explorer weather. Thankfully, Jinbei is ready to take the helm. He orders Frankie to furl the sails. The wind is too strong to go on with them open. He asks Nami how close they are to making landfall. The navigator shivers but confirms it feels like they're entering an island's climate zone. Given the weather, it's presumably a winter island, but they can't be too far from the shore now. We take a peek inside the Sunny. The cabin looks wonderfully warm by comparison to the exterior. Robin, as usual, more sensible than her crewmates, is sitting at a bench and reading a good book. Chopper, meanwhile, is resolved to be bold. Our adorable doctor is sporting a full set of winter gear, including an amigasa to keep the snow out of his eyes. Apparently this was a gift from Tama, and Chopper is very proud of it. He is resolved to join the rest of the crew outside, wanting to help his friends however he can. Now this is honestly pretty funny to me because remember, Chopper is a reindeer. He is born for these sorts of climates. On deck, Luffy has spotted something in the distance. He points it out for Nami, who soon sees it too. There is a strange water formation ahead of the Sunny. A giant warm eddy current rising out of the ocean. It's like a slow motion version of the knock-up stream. Something is forcing warm water upward from one spot and making it pull together. This leads to a ball of water with wind swirling around it. Brook is happy to note it resembles his afro. Nami, however, spots the danger. The temperature difference is causing strong winds to pull towards the center of the ball, creating a matching current. This eddy would quickly suck up the Sunny if they're not careful. If they're caught by the wind and end up inside the ball, it could break the ship apart. Nami is not willing to risk that. She asks Jinbei to get them out of there right away. The helmsman snaps too, ready to help, but Luffy stops him. He has spotted someone trapped in the eddy. They can't just leave them behind. Nami finds that hard to believe. How could someone except a mermaid or fishman be alive in the middle of a massive body of water? Sanji backs up Luffy though. He can definitely hear a lady in distress in the eddy. Somehow. and that is through a metric ton of water and wind. It's hard to blame Nami for still being skeptical at that idea, but it is clear Sanji isn't just giving into wishful thinking here. There are no hearts in his eyes, no blood from his nose. He is quite serious. Unfortunately, this leaves the Straw Hats with a problem. How are they supposed to save a woman from the middle of what is basically a typhoon? None of them are going to be safe if they get anywhere near that thing, especially not Luffy. Thankfully, they have Zoro, the man who can cut anything. And Zoro is happy to try cutting the giant natural disaster down to size, even as Sanji insists he better not hurt the woman inside. Zoro goes for the one-sword style, bird dance, and it is a magnificent display. He has knocked the top right off of the eddy like it is some kind of giant egg he just split in two. Now they have an opening for Luffy to reach inside and retrieve the woman. Unfortunately, here's where things go wrong. Chopper finally steps out onto the deck, complete with his brand new snow outfit. This was not very good timing. While Zoro has removed the top of the water formation, he has not stopped it. The intense winds surrounding the eddy are growing stronger, trying to pull more water up to fill the gap Zoro made. As soon as Chopper steps out onto the deck, the good doctor is swept off of his hooves by his also aerodynamic hat. He is sucked into the eddy in a matter of seconds before he can find something to grab onto. Luffy reaches out, trying to use his rubber arms to haul Chopper in. Despite this, the winds are too strong even for our captain to deal with. Thanks to the eddy's pull on the accused Amigasa, Luffy is hoisted off of the ship too. He and Chopper are thrown violently upward, out of sight of the ship. They are just spots in the sky by the end, flying towards Nika only knows what. Hopefully not the ocean, since they're both Belfort users. But yeah, Luffy may have just been killed because of a literal straw hat. As far as dangerous to our heroes' lives go, I have to admit I was not expecting that one. As the two hat wearers are carried up into the horizon, however, a small figure pops out of the eddy, falling down to the deck of the Sunny. Even without Luffy's help, this rescue operation has been a success. The new arrival is a young girl wearing a distinctive frilly outfit. She is soaked, spitting out water, and probably barely conscious. But we do know her, and the caption box reminds us of her identity. This is Jewelry Bonney, one-time captain of the Bonney Pirates and member of the Worst Generation. She is the one that Blackbeard handed into the world government after the Summit War, thinking the Navy would give him a boat in return for her capture. When we last saw Bonney, she was sneaking around Mary Joa during the reverie. Her somehow getting away from the sacred city and showing up here is unexpected. If she escaped with Sabo though and was traveling with him, that could suggest that the eddy is indeed all that remains of Lulusia. And with that grim thought, we close out chapter 1060. Now that was a ride and a half. We received so much this chapter. Our questions for you this time would be, do you think that Bonney's introduction is the start of the next arc? And are Chopper and Luffy going to land near the Sunny, or did the eddy send them flying so far that they are already on the next island? Let us know down below. As always, I'm SliceOfOtaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.